one, and we're rolling. How are you doing today, my brother?
Good, mate. How are you? How are things?
I am good, man. I'm good. How
Good.
was your morning?
It was good. I had a bit of a lie. I just slept till midday today. I had a bit of a lie. Sunday's always like a lazy day for me, so don't really do much on Sunday. If I was going to do everything, I'd just do it on the Saturday. But Sunday's always like a lazy day for me. So I don't tend to work weekends unless I do sort of extra shifts as a GP. So yeah, no, it's been good. Everything's been good. It's not really a lot to do, obviously with lockdown and stuff.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
So, well, first, thanks for coming on. I've been really excited to have you.
No, it's pleasure. It's pleasure's all mine. It's been an honor to come on with you, man.
Yeah, man. So please tell us about what you do. Like, obviously, you're a GP.
Yeah.
You're really serious into your sports and your fitness, your
Yeah.
boxing, and
Yeah.
you run your own podcast show as well.
Yeah. So I work as a GP. Also at the side as work as a sports doctor. Obviously, it's a little bit difficult at the moment because since March last year, all the sports competitive, a lot of sports games have been cancelled and stuff. So I work in the amateur and professional boxing setting. I work rugby league as well for a rugby league side called Winners Vikings. I worked at a season for Everton ladies. I did a season in football. It wasn't really my thing, but predominantly, working in sort of boxing and rugby at the moment. And I think that came from, I used to box competitively as an amateur boxer from 2010, 2013. Still do it now for fitness and stuff, but obviously don't competitively fight because of the time. So that's the thing I wanted to sort of take. I always wanted to work within the sports setting, really, because obviously it was combining my interests with my profession. And you're right, I've just started my own podcast last May, the Doctor Uzpodcast. So it's just basically interviewing people I find interesting, to do with sports, music, everyday life, crime. So we're about 80 episodes in, and it's just this is a mixture of things that if you wanted to listen to a podcast, it's on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. You can find something on there that would interest you. But that's it, really. Me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's awesome. You've had some really big guests on your podcast.
Yeah. There's been a few. There's been ex-world champions, but current boxers, undercover police detectives, comedians. There's all sorts of. I mean, most. Other than I said 3 episodes, I think the majority of them have had featured celebrity guests. So if anyone's interested in that, you can check that out. The Doctor Uz podcast.
That's awesome. So I was watching your channel today on Instagram, and you've got an array of awesome content. So
thank you, man. Thank you.
See yourself as someone who is like a GP, sports GP. Like I'd imagine your timetable would probably be really busy with that. But additionally, you've taken on this passion project of doing content.
It's hard, it is. It's hard managing your time and stuff, and as you know yourself, you're busy as well with your teaching and promoting on Instagram. It's about, we talked about it before, it's about consistency, and
of course
that's the thing. When I took up this podcast thing, I knew it's just a hobby for me. I knew it's not going to make money, but if you do something consistently, if you do something every day, it will grow. It will exponentially grow, and it's when you lose the passion for it, you just give it up. That's when you're not going to see anything. But if you do something every day, if you do something enough every day, whether it's put up, consistently, whether it's put up an Instagram post about health or something like that, or putting up a podcast episode one to two a week, which we do, you're going to see growth and you're going to see development. And it's just patience and consistency, really. But it is hard work, man. It's just hard work having to manage everything.
Of course, yeah. I
I
saw today you posted a clip that I really liked, and I can't remember the name. It was like 60-second medical tips with.
It's just about, obviously, with, as you know, with lockdown and stuff, and I'm seeing it as a GP now. People's physical, but more so mental health is suffering because essentially everything's been taken away from them. Some people have unfortunately lost their jobs. Some people, have had their businesses affected. The fact that they have to stay indoors. Some people have, in a big family, having to stay indoors. It's overwhelming for them. And then obviously a lot of time, the gyms have been shut as well. So people who enjoy going to the gyms, going out to socialize with their friends. So I am seeing, and I've seen it obviously since the lockdown happened, but you see it worse at times. A lot of people are reporting, worsening depression, worsening anxiety, worsening mental health.
Of course.
And it's no coincidence, the lockdown is causing it and stuff. So I wanted to, because a lot of people don't know the difference between, oh, I'm having a bad week and I'm actually clinically depressed.
Sure.
So, a lot of people may think I've just failed my exam, I've just done this, I'm depressed, but that's not necessarily the case. So I wanted to really be clear and outline some of the symptoms of depression and when to be worried about, if you do feel depressed and anxious, and if the symptoms have gone on for this amount of time, so it's more than 2 weeks, I'm saying in the video, when to go seek some medical help, really, because I'm sure you've seen, buddy, like it's causing a lot of people problems and stuff. So
yeah, man. Yeah. It's a lot of my students are they're students from other countries, and they've come here to live in the UK to study in a university or a college somewhere across the UK. And
wow.
they've traveled all the way here just to be alone in an apartment. They're not getting to go to the university. They're not being able to meet friends. So they've come all traveled around the world to be locked in a student accommodation. And I understand why it's there, but for these people who are isolated, and to be alone, when you're left with your own thoughts and your own thoughts are working against you, it's a really dangerous thing.
It's hard, and it must be similar to, I'm not, it must be what it's people like in, prison and jail, you are alone with your thoughts. And what's that saying? An idle mind is a devil's playground.
Yeah, man.
So, I feel sorry for these international students who essentially, have come over, all their family and friends and their way of life is in their country. They've come here. They can't even go explore the city. They can't even make new friends if they wanted to, because everyone else is in the house. No bars, restaurants, or places of social gathering are open. So it must be so difficult for them as well. And then on top of that, they're learning to speak the language. They can't speak the language enough now to get by. Yeah, it must be, because I feel empathetic for them, because imagine me or you being put somewhere away from your family. It's hard enough now with your family, but to be by yourself must be scary.
No, of course. Some of the students I deal with, I'm the only person they talk to some days, and sometimes I only see them 2 or 3 times a week, and they've spoken on the phone to other people, but that's it.
So you're literally the first person. You're the only person they see in a day, basically.
It can be like that.
Are you noticing a difference in their mood or anything like that? Or have they said, "Oh, this is really hard," or have they expressed any sort of disdain?
Some of them do. It's funny. I call myself an English teacher, but there's days it can go past where I don't talk about a lot of English, because I think in this time, well, I've been doing this online teaching since June, so I kind of came into this in the midst of the virus.
Yeah.
And it's really thank God, it's been a flourishing industry. I know a lot of people are struggling with their jobs and they can't get hours. Thank God that this business is it's going on. There's students and there's a lot of work for me to do. Yeah, but I do get the impression a lot of these people, the conversations I'm having are about mental health. It's about loneliness. It's about, I think, motivation. People are not getting outside. They're not, humans were social creatures. If you're not spending time with other people, being around other people, if you're not going outside in the sun, if you're not exercising, if you're just in the house every day, it's, you wake up in your pajamas, you stay in your pajamas. There's no urgency to go and have your breakfast. There's no going and doing something. It's, you kind of just go into this slow down routine. They say when people retire, it's really important they keep a good routine. They keep exercising. They go out. They have purpose, because otherwise they just kind of become frail and fade away. And I'm seeing that in people. They're in this kind of retirement mindset of they're just kind of sitting around.
Yeah, there is. Routine is everything. Routine, stimulation, exercise. They're everything. And I guess it doesn't help that compared to obviously the first lockdown where it was a little bit sunnier outside, people want to go outside. The weather conditions are a little bit different, but you just have to, that's the thing, you have to adapt. You have to try adapt. To human beings, it is about adaptation and trying to adapt to new situations and new scenarios. So I guess it's no different here, to be honest. We have to just try to get outdoors and do some form of exercise and keep that routine up. And it's easier for me to say because I still have to go into work, but I can imagine it's just very, very difficult for people that don't have a job at the moment and they don't know what to do. But it's just really, really hard. And I mean, I guess the sooner this is over, the better, really, or the sooner we return back to normality. Maybe when more people are vaccinated and whatnot, we can return back to our normality. But I guess that's a different story, to be honest.
Normality, it seems so far away.
Yeah,
The going out and being with your friends, like, I think it's really one good thing that we can practice for mental health is gratitude. And I found myself practicing this more over recent years, and I try to be more mindful of the time I spend with my friends and my family, because I felt it could, you don't know when our time's going to come or what could happen. But being able to go outside, go to the parks, go to the shops, or like kind of mingle in groups, it was just not something I thought could ever be taken away. It was not something I ever anticipate. And like overnight, it was gone.
I don't think anyone did. Like, I really don't think anyone did. I think they thought it would be like this for a month, and then we'd go back to normal. And we get like glimmers of hope, and then it would just go back to I mean, this is basically where we are. We're basically in the same position we were a year ago, which is worrying, to be honest. Because you think, we'd go into the tier system, and then we'd sort of they wouldn't. I always told myself, the government wouldn't want to lock down the whole country. It doesn't benefit them, but I guess we're just literally in the same position we were a year ago. So I don't know when normality is ever going to come back, to be honest. I'm sure it will, but I don't know when.
God help us, man.
God help us. It is. Because the last time we were normal was what, February 2020?
Yeah, right? Almost a year.
Yeah, and then things really took for a turn from March. But I don't know. I'm just hoping when more people have the vaccine, or when they've got, but yeah.
So I think you'll have an interesting perspective as a GP and someone who gives advice on mental health.
Yeah.
Some people, I think, they don't realize that they're depressed, or they see your thoughts are your reality. And if you are thinking that, if you're thinking these negative thoughts and you're feeling negative, and like you become, the more you do it, the better you become at it, the easier it becomes to practice negativity. And you kind of get sucked into this like loop of just everything you see, you can pick out the negativity in it. But people don't realize it's like this illness of them. It's not your reality. It's just how you're perceiving your reality. And the way you have become accustomed to this, you can actually either medicate or train yourself out of it. And you can, redirect your thoughts into something which is more prosperous and in alignment with what your aspirations are. So how do you kind of coach people out of that, particularly in this time with the coronavirus?
No, that's a good point, and that's a good sort of description that you made for mental health. It's how you perceive those thoughts, how you let those thoughts affect you, how you cope with those stressful sort of the situations, and there are two sort of ways of managing people, like you mentioned, medication and sort of counseling therapy. And I often say, that's obviously the easier thing is the medication, but that might only constitute for 10% of your improvement. The medication is really medication is useful for sort of moderate to very severe depression, where the symptoms they've been there for a while, they've been quite intense. And the symptoms of depression typically are, persistent low moods, loss of enjoyment of things you used to enjoy. Say, for example, you used to enjoy, cooking, playing the PlayStation. You just can't do that anymore. Lack of energy, and sort of suicidal and thoughts of harming yourself or other people. So they're 4 symptoms. Other symptoms you get is obviously peripheral symptoms like lack or gain of appetite, poor sleep. So typically, if someone has experiencing those symptoms for longer than 2 weeks persistently, we usually, when they come in, we usually give them a questionnaire, or we assess how severe the. So if it's very mild, if it's only been there for a couple of weeks, they can still function. It's all about how much they function and how much affecting their quality of life. So if they can still function, but they're just a bit low, a bit blue, it's not affecting them going out, it's not affecting them eat, sleep, but they're just not themselves. I'll often just solely redirect them towards talking therapy, counseling therapy. It's something called cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's basically, it can include stuff like mindfulness, but it's also teaching you how to cope with, those sort of negative thoughts, how to, how you perceive them, how you sort of interpret them and stuff, and not letting them affect, your day to day. So it's simple things like having a negative thought and then that spiraling onto the things. Oh, because of this thought, I'm this. Because of this thought, I can't do this. Because of this thought, I'm not going to do this. So it's about so I always say cognitive behavioral therapy is about rewiring your brain, essentially rewiring how you perceive those thoughts and everything like that. That is, and obviously when the cases are more severe, when depression becomes more severe, medication is useful, and I would say medication will make the bad days not so bad, but 80 to 90% of your recovery has to involve some sort of talking therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy. And not only that, I often say it's important. I always ask patients, do you have your support of your family and friends? Do you have any family and friends around you? What's your support network like? Because often things are a little bit difficult if someone is just like we were talking about with students and stuff, the international students you coach, someone who's alone, that's you're fighting an uphill battle. So I often check that, who's at home. A big thing as well for me is, especially in males, are there any, what's the alcohol intake like? Are there any recreational drugs? Because I find a lot of times with males, more so the young to middle-aged, they will mask their symptoms of depression with just drinking more.
Sure.
Yeah, more recreational drugs, drinking more. And there's a reason why someone is drinking more alcohol. It's not because they're happy, because they want to get drunk all the time. It's not because they're happy. 95% of people who are drinking alcoholism, there's an underlying unhappiness there. There's something underlying there that they're not happy with, that they feel really low about. And you see it a lot of times with army veterans as well, who come home, who are suffering with post-traumatic stress disorder. Fortunately, due to lack of support for them, for the veterans, they may turn to alcohol, they may turn to drug substances. So it's often finding out, if they're indulging in that. And then another thing as well is finding out if they're, what their routine is like. Are they doing any exercise? What their eating habits are like? Do they get out of the house and stuff like that? So in terms of coaching them and moving forward, yeah, I'd sort of consider whether we need to start medication, antidepressants. All the time I'd signpost patients to sort of counseling therapy, and I'd try and implement, the importance of, stuff like meditation, mindfulness. You can find a lot of apps on your iPhone. One which is really good, I've used it before, called Headspace, which is, you put it on your phone and you sort of sit there with your eyes closed, and it gives you like breathing exercises, and it's almost like meditation. So that's really useful. And then I'd sort of encourage the importance of doing some of exercise. And exercise is not, I always say, it's not a one size fits all. Everyone doesn't have to run a marathon. Everyone doesn't have to go swim in the sea.
Sure.
If you can go on walk, if you've never exercised before, just go on a walk for 10 minutes. Some people exercise is walking 300 meters. That's enough for some people. It just depends on where your threshold is in terms of your activity level. So some people exercise as dancing, some people exercise as gardening, some people, so yeah, it's just a multitude of things. But at the end of the day, as with your language, someone only the change for someone's mental health, it's not down to myself or the family members. It's down to them. At the end of the day, it's how much they want to, change their life and make those changes. Really.
Oh, that's totally true. Well,
yeah.
This is something I've learned as a teacher. This is a Bruce Lee quote, and I never really fully appreciated it until I started teaching, and that's a teacher can point the way, but you can't take the student there. You can't take someone there.
What's that? You can take a elephant to the water, but you can't make him drink it.
Exactly. Bruce Lee says you can point them, but if they choose to focus on the finger rather than what's ahead, they'll miss out on all the heavenly glory.
That's a good quote. That.
Yeah, it's a quote that I like. I like my quotes. I like quotes.
I do as well, and I think one bit we mentioned about alcohol before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't drink. I've drunk before, but I don't drink. I think alcohol is. I said this I put a clip up on Instagram. I think alcohol is the devil. It's one of the worst drugs we have at the moment. Video. It's the devil. And we were saying, let's finish off the sentences. I beat up my wife because I was drunk. I hit someone in my car because I was drunk driving. I lost my job because I was drinking. I couldn't go to work. I abuse someone. Everything is because, you know, everything you read about in the Glasgow newspaper, they were inebriated. You know, you don't see them because they were stoned. They were smoking marijuana. If anything, it's going to make you very happy. Like, or even ecstasy or anything. Any of these, you know, and then when you get drugs like cocaine and stuff like that, amphetamines, alcohol is a gateway to these drugs. You know,
Sure.
And a lot of these hospital admissions, everything that we're seeing, mental health, hospital admissions, it's all exacerbated. All a flame is lit by alcohol. The physical problems as well, the liver problems, everything. It's the devil to me. So it's that saying with alcohol. Burn back to the sayings. People who drink to drown their sorrows should know that their sorrows can swim. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know that. You know. And that's the thing. That's when it comes into the mental health thing.
Yeah, man. I really like that quote. People don't realize their sorrows can swim.
Yeah, they do. They just drink, and then it might be temporarily. But if any of you notice people who do drink and are sad, when they get drunk, the sadness will come out, and then the next day when they're hungover, they feel even worse. So it makes you wonder, like, yeah, why you drink? Like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a totally different story, but I honestly say it's the worst drug that we have at the moment. And if it wasn't, it makes you, things like this, alcohol, cigarettes, like, why are they legal? Why are they there? Like, why are they?
Yeah, why is McDonald's and KFC open but the gyms aren't?
That's the thing. Like, why? I mean, I love McDonald's as much as the next guy. Like, you know, like fucking apple pies and stuff like that. But why are they open? Why is the gyms not open? Like the gyms. And another thing, like, again, like, why was Primark open? Like the likes of Primark were open, but the gyms, I don't get it. And this is the thing, like, I mean, more in America, you know, they're doing, you know, this is the whole thing with sort of CBD and stuff like that. But
sure,
people still look down on stuff like CBD and all these other, like, marijuana and stuff. But alcohol is perfectly fine. Like, and I always say this. I said this on a podcast when I went on a guest. People, I don't know about you, but people almost not laugh, but sort of, it's a jovial thing. Like, oh, look at John over there from the office. He can put away his alcohol. He's a big drinker. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, another one is about tolerance. Like people, the higher tolerance you have to alcohol, the better cool. person you are. It's so he's cool. You can drink so much alcohol.
He can put away his drinks. Look at him at the Christmas party. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. He goes home. He can drink three bottles, and it's like, that's not cool. Like, that's fucking stupid. Like, it's nothing to encourage someone about. But then like when the government, you know, like other stuff like some sort of marijuana and stuff like that, it's that everything that I've mentioned before, like, you know, problems and stuff, it's all alcohol related. Like all the stuff that you read about in the newspaper, they'll say like so and so solicitor reported that he was drunk and he didn't recall anything. That's always the thing you read. Like, it's like, it's always the thing. Mr. Smith, solicitor, Mr. Smith legal team professed that he was drunk and he didn't recall any of it. So,
oh my gosh. As a, you know, with your sort of credentials and background, you touched on marijuana. What's your thoughts on that? Particularly with kind of relating to, we were talking depression. Do you think there's a merit in it? Do you think there's?
That's a catch 22. Again, if marijuana can have quite harmful effects, you know, a lot of the times, you know, with the mental health problems, and I've seen a lot of patients where they may have smoked weed or they may be smoking too much weed, and it can cause psychosis or worsening mental health. There are benefits of, you know, marijuana contains two substances, THC, which is the thing that gets you intoxicated, high, and then CBD, which is the derivative of the plant. And that's basically, there's a lot of health benefits to that. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't get you inebriated or high, but there are a lot of health benefits in terms of mental health, you know, things for physical pain. Studies have shown that in certain forms of seizures and epilepsy, it can help. So taking CBD alone is good, but sometimes, you know, a lot of times when people are smoking cannabis. You don't know how well it's grown. You know where it's grown. You don't know what strain it is. So often that can worsen people's mental health as well. But I guess it's all about moderation at the end of the day. Doing that once every so often isn't going to do anything. But 9 times out of 10, people that have with mental health problems, they you find them smoking cannabis every day, copious amounts of cannabis every day. And that's the same thing with alcohol as well. The problems come when it becomes a regular, consistent habit sort of thing. So yeah, back to what we're saying. Yeah, there are benefits of marijuana only solely because the ingredient in there, CBD, has showed health benefits, but the actual sort of smoking of it in this country has led to problems of the actual cannabis. But obviously in America, like I've been to America a couple of times, and the states like California and Vegas, where they've made marijuana recreationally legal. Other states have made it medically legal as well, and you don't really find like problems linked to marijuana out there. If anything, it just seems to help them. Like, I don't know, like I'd love to look into it more, to be honest, because their outlook on marijuana and is totally different to our government's outlook on it. And I think maybe the growth conditions over there, like it's grown in sunny conditions, in California and whatnot. It seems to be a better, I don't know. So it just seems to help more people out there. I don't know. I don't know why the cases of sort of mental health psychosis linked to marijuana seem to be less out there than they do here. Yeah, it's something I'd want to read into, but yeah.
That's interesting, man. Something else you touched on previous was about the sleep related to depression. That stood out to me, so I just want to mention that while it's still in my mind. But I was talking to another doctor who I had on my podcast, Dr. Lavan, and he was telling me that a lot of the time these patients come in and you find you've got this problem or this symptom, but what's happening is they're stressing and they're not sleeping. And he actually said to me he prioritizes sleep over exercise, and like just the importance for you, because when you're not sleeping, I think he even said that there's some people who they're overweight and they're trying these different diets and exercise, but they're not losing the weight. It turns out there's some kind of hormonal disbalance because of the sleep. And I think see when people are not sleeping properly, particularly in men, another thing I want to talk about was testosterone.
Yeah, exactly.
Testosterone gets lower, people end up overweight, they end up depressed, indecisive, unable to drive, and there's no motion, they're not kind of getting anything done. So
yeah, no, that's a really, really good point. Sleep is everything, to be honest. And it's always good to, men that have these problems, always good to get their bloods taken, check, nothing's going on from a vitamin level and the hormone level. I'm someone that's absolutely, my sleep, I'd say since I've, like we were mentioning before, since I've started to take on these stuff, like especially with the podcast and stuff, my sleeping is absolutely terrible. Like on the weekday, I might fall asleep at 2:30 and I have to be up by 8. So I'll need like 5-6 hours. But then in the week, like obviously I woke up late today. On the weekend, I'd crash, I'd sleep more. And that's just for me having a busy thing, like I make sure I train 5 times a week, exercise 5 times a week, 4 or 5 times a week. But sleep is terrible to me. Like it's just, and if you think it's bad in a professional like myself, like you got to think it's terrible in other people as well. But a lot of times with sleep, that's just because of me, like not being able to sort of switch off. I'm doing work and other stuff. But a lot of times people will try to sleep, but they can't because their mind is racing. They're, just persistently low. They're anxious. They're in bed. They might get into bed at 10 o'clock and they just don't fall asleep till 3-4 in the morning, and they'll sleep for an hour. So there's a difference in my thing between someone who's surviving on low sleep because they're busy, and someone who's just, they'll try sleep and they'll only sleep for an hour or two and they wake up. The big thing with sleep and low mood is early morning awakening. Does that make sense? They'll feel tired, they'll feel exhausted, but they may only sleep for an hour and they'll always wake up consistently. You'll get some people who go to sleep late and wake up late. That's not so much an issue compared to people who, when it's a mental health problem, it'll be like they'll fall asleep late, but they'll just wake up an hour or two later. And they can't sort of get back to sleep. But yeah, sleep is everything, and sleep can affect a lot of stuff. Testosterone, it goes up and down in men, Typically, it's highest in the morning after someone has slept for a good 7 to 8 hours and they're fasted. Obviously, if your sleeping patterns are regular, it's going to affect your levels. I work with a lot of professional boxers, and we always get their testosterone levels measured. And typically, I've had at least 2 where they've been lower than normal. And this is not something you expect in a professional athlete. And this is only because they're putting their body into so much stress, for the dieting, the training. So testosterone levels are something that do fluctuate, but things can affect the testosterone level, your bodily weight, sleep.
Yep.
Sleep is a big one, which my sleep is terrible. Stress as well, how much stress you're under, your eating habits. A big thing is obviously the driving thing with testosterone is how much you're exercising, your activity levels. So, and then that's it really. And then you can also link stuff like vitamin D. Vitamin D is also important as well, because that can be affected in the stuff that I just mentioned before. So that's a lot of times it can be affected by someone's anxiety and low mood, slow sleep.
Yeah, I was reading an article by Forbes, and the heading of the article was "You're not the man your father was." And in this article, it talks about the drop in male testosterone, and I think it was like 30% in the last maybe 40 years. The average testosterone has dropped by.
Really? You sensed the article. Why did they say that it dropped? What would they say the factors were?
Oh man, that's a good question. I'll add it in the link of this video and I'll forward it to you. But it's Forbes. Yeah. You're not the man your father was.
I'm gonna read that. Yeah.
Do you know who Elliot Hulls is?
No.
All right, fitness entrepreneur on YouTube. I joined. He has like a sort of he sells courses. I joined one of his courses, and there's a Facebook page, and I network with one of the other guys in it. And I've done another. My last video I uploaded on Wednesday. It was with one of the guys from that program, and that guy is like a testosterone specialist, and he was talking about it, the massive drop in testosterone, and some of the things he has a course he sells to help guys optimize their testosterone. And some of the things he spoke about on our podcast was, well, obviously there's this, like, just look at the way people are living these late nights. There's no order, no set waking up time. Then there's a diet. There's all these like high sugar things. I think because like, I don't want to be representing him. I'm just saying roughly what I remember. But like, I think a lot of it just to do with diet, lifestyle. I think pornography is another one, which has actually damaged testosterone. Or just easy access to pornography in some way had a detrimental effect on male testosterone. There's a handful of other ones. Drinking out of plastic bottles, drinking out of there's like some kind of it contaminates the water, and then we're consuming that. A lot of things to do with our lifestyle. A lot of things like the diet we eat, our lifestyle. But yeah, it's been quite 30%, I believe. I think it's 30% in the last 30 or 40 years.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. And again, if it is hereditary, if your dad has got his testosterone measured and his is low, yours is likely going to be quite low as well. It can be hereditary, but it's something that can be improved. Exercising regularly, eating better, sleeping a little bit better and earlier and waking up, which I don't do. Taking a multivitamin every day as well. Looking in multivitamins, which is something I take, something containing sort of, because zinc is something that's good for, testosterone and sort of sperm morphology and stuff like that. Stuff like magnesium, aspartate, vitamin D, all the vitamins. So look and invest in that. It isn't, but it is something that can be improved. Testosterone is an interesting one, to be honest, because a lot of people would look to, and I'm guilty of it myself, looking, for my own sort of training purposes and stuff, looking at testosterone replacement therapy, because you get different forms, you get it in a gel, injection, but they cause problems within itself, because if
once you're on it, you can't go back to normal.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. So basically I I mean, this is really naughty of me. Like, I should have known better, to be honest, because my mum's a fertility specialist. And you get these online. You can order medication online. Through online doctors, online pharmacies. I just couldn't be bothered going to my GP. So, you fill out a questionnaire and stuff like that. You fill out the reasons why. And I ordered, like, it was a couple of weeks. I was just like, I might as well give it a try, for my own training purposes and stuff like that. See if it makes a difference. I ordered like sachets of testosterone replacement gel. So it's a gel that you rub on your shoulder every day, 50 milligrams. And I did everything. I checked all the medication doses are in something called the BNF, which is the British National Formulary. It's like a drug dose Bible, basically. Sure. So I checked the right dose. I was like, I want to do this. Do it for a sort of 6 to 8 weeks. It should be fine. Let's see if it improves my sort of sleeping pattern and my training, and gains from my training. I spoke to my mum, who's a fertility specialist. I just mentioned it in passing, and she's like, "No, do not start taking them, because when you start replacing your body with an outside testosterone source, like injection gel, so your testosterone levels will go high, but it will kill off all your sperm cells. So you'll pretty much be infertile, if that makes sense. And
really,
if you're trying to have a child, and if you think, it will shrink off. So you obviously testicle size and volume and stuff will be affected. Sperm cells will just be killed off and stuff like that. So that's and then obviously after that 6 to 8 week cycle, people start to feel quite low, and it's quite hard for people to come off it, essentially, because you're so used to your testosterone levels being at an abnormally high level or a very high level. You don't want to go back to where you were, if that makes sense.
The dip is going to be a problem.
Oh, yeah, of course. So the normal levels are like between 10 and 30. Okay, so say you've been operating at a semi-low level of sort of 7 to 8, functioning. Like, funny enough, I had 2 professional athletes. One was in the middle of training camp and his level was 4, but I'm sure it'll be a bit higher now. And another was 8. So they're like marginally low. So say you start testosterone replacement and yours jumps up, I don't know, to 19, 20 or 18 or something like that. The moment you stop, it will be a massive, huge fall from grace. Because, in that 8 weeks, you've been a lot of testosterone will make you feel quite, like your libido will go up. You'll feel very, sorry?
You'll feel bulletproof.
Yeah, you feel amazing. You feel confident. I know a personal friend of mine said that, you feel confident. You feel, walk with your chest out. You feel bulletproof. Your libido's up. Higher sex drive. So think about when you have to stop that. You go back to where you were. It's horrible. And a lot of people will be low, suffer with mental health issues, anxious, irritable. So that's the thing. People need to be very, very careful, before they, and this, I'm a medical professional. This is a mistake I nearly made.
Wow.
So
you stopped in time, you didn't take it?
Oh, no, I didn't. No. I ordered it. It came. It cost me like £94 for 60 sachets. So luckily my mum told me before I started taking it. So I was just like, oh my God, I didn't. Thank God I didn't take it. And then I tried to get them returned, but they didn't take them. So I'll just probably give them to my friend, who, because a couple of them have had kids. They've had their kids, so they don't. Then it's not whether they have no sperm or not. It doesn't make a difference to them. But especially for someone that's trying to have children and stuff, I really wouldn't advise to do that.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. But it was a close call, to be honest. Like,
yeah, thank God you found out in time. That'd be a disaster if you just started taking it.
And then you wouldn't know why as well. And in all honesty, you wouldn't want to admit to a lot of people what you're doing. If people ask, oh, why is your sperm? Because you know in your heart of heart why it's going wrong. Say, for example, 8 weeks down the line, a couple of months down the line, if you're on testosterone replacement, you know in your heart why you're in this predicament, but you wouldn't want to admit to anyone.
Yeah.
And that's where I found a lot of patients that are taking, anabolic steroids and, performance enhancing drugs and stuff like that. Where they come in problems with their sperm count and with their mood. If they've been growing, breast tissue, for example, male, it's often an embarrassment for them to admit that they're taking this, or they know what you're going to say, basically, so they didn't tell you truthfully.
These are side effects that happen after you come off of the testosterone.
Yeah. So so basically, yeah, you come when you come off the testosterone, if you just come off it, because you need to be on after you come off the testosterone, you need to be on
TRT.
TRT is a testosterone replacement therapy, but you need to be on something called PCT. It's like I'm obviously not, my mum will know, sort of thing, but you need to be on something to replace, stop basically the estrogen production going up, and with the estrogen production, that's when you grow breast tissue, you get man boobs and stuff like that, and obviously with the testosterone production in your body, basically when you stop the outside source of the testosterone replacement, your body won't be making that much testosterone, so that's when you start to become irritable, low, angry, anxious and whatnot. So it's really, really hard, to be honest, and I wouldn't, unless you really know what you're doing and you've been told by someone to do the cycles here and there. It's not something I'd advise getting into, to be honest. And it's not only testosterone. There's so much other stuff like these bodybuilding stuff, anabolic steroids, growth hormones. It's just a really slippery slope, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's definitely increased in popularity. Like, see this gym culture, it seems to have kind of come out of nowhere. I was talking to one of my friends who's a bit older than me. He's in his mid-40s. And he told me back in the early 90s, if someone was going to the gym and lifting weights, it was because they were a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like everyone's doing it. And I think this desire to be bigger and bigger and stronger, I understand the appeal. This culture we have now of Instagram and looking your best. There's that hunger for.
It is. It's like it is. You mentioned before Instagram, all these women that want to become, just be clumsily dressed on Instagram just to get followers, or the men and stuff like that. And it's just this whole social media thing. And it's back to the mental health thing. It gives people a false sense of what what reality is, to be honest, because people look at other people on social media and say, oh, he's living such a brilliant life with his Lamborghinis and his holidays, but that social media is just, it's not. You could live a fake life and portray it all on social media, and you'll just deceive a load of people, and that's the thing. Like a lot, it just seems to me things are not what they were in the 90s. You didn't have social media and stuff like that, and people look at social media now for a sense of that's what my life should be. I'm so unhappy with my own life. I'm looking at everything on social media and stuff like that. Yeah, it doesn't help. It really, really doesn't help.
Do you think that depression and suicide, do you think this is a bigger problem now? Because I was talking to my mum about it, and she says growing up, she never heard about suicide. Like, it was just not, whereas now I think most of us know someone who's done it, or who's been there, or who's been in the deep side of depression.
That's a really good question. Yeah, that's a really, really, really good question. When I was growing, because I'm 32, so I was born in '88. So when I was growing up, the only people you'd hear about suicide is, these famous people that had drug problems or alcohol problems. Like Kurt Cobain or something like that, shoot himself. Who had a drug problem, I believe. But now a lot of times you're seeing, But then again, I don't know whether it was more hidden back then. People not talking about mental health problems, people describing mental health problems as a nervous breakdown or a mental breakdown, or whatever the words they used to use. Compared to 10 years ago, mental health is more talked about now. It's more embraced. People are more reporting their problems. But I think because they're reporting their issues, you're hearing more about suicide and mental health. I think it's really difficult. I don't know whether we heard about it less because less people were doing it, or we heard about it less because it wasn't being reported, if that makes sense. But then again, there are things, the things that have come in the last 10 years, which have made, which have had a worse effect on people's mental health. Like you mentioned, social media, Facebook, Instagram. Before then you had MSN Messenger. People weren't really flaunting on MSN Messenger and MySpace and stuff, but Instagram is something, it's so accessible now. And so I don't know. I mean, that's a really, really good question. So you've obviously got two sides of the argument. Like you could think, you know, mental health has always been there. It's just more reported now. But then again, you could think, well, you didn't have stuff like social media in the 90s, in the 80s. You know, you actually had to go out and talk to people and make friends with people and, you know, go and knock on someone's door and stuff like that to go and have them come out on the street and play. So a lot of people were more social and stuff like that. So there wasn't a sense of isolation. Yeah, I'd be really interested. You know what? When I have some time, and I'll probably share my results with you, I might actually go back and have, you know, like pick a year like 1995 or 96 and look at, maybe try see if I can find like statistics of suicide and mental health figures at that stage and compare it to now.
I'd really be interested to see that. But well, we're really living in a unique time. The last 10 years, 15 years, it's just been such a transition. Globalization is the way everything's globalized now with the internet. Like the way we can, the way we can see what's going on in other parts of the world and what, you know, kind of their standards are, and have all these different influences and all these ideas of beauty or of what's right, what's wrong. I think things were less confusing in the past, you know, of, oh, my life should look like this. These are the lifestyles that are getting likes. This idea, you know, I see this idea of like, you know, getting likes on Instagram and it's a wee love heart, you know, and even me, like I like to look at my insights on Instagram and I think, oh, wow, 100 people like this or 50 people like this. Wow, look at me. Then there's people out there like, I only got 4 likes and one of them's my mum. You know, so
but mate, that's the like that should be most important to you, man.
Of
like,
course,
not the same likes on Instagram. I think that's your family and close friends.
It's everything.
Are everything. Yeah, it's everything. Like loyalty is everything. But yeah, no, it makes you. I'm the same as you because, like yourself, we're trying to obviously build our brand up and stuff like that. And you look at your insights, but then you wonder, like, what am I doing? Like, what am I really doing? But a lot of people, like, it's different if you're trying to build up a business or a brand. But a lot of people, they're using Instagram as like an affirmation. You know, it's just
big time.
Taking pictures of themselves. And yeah, they don't get the likes and the follows. It can ruin their day. If someone unfollows them, it can really ruin their day. It's like, come on, like, yeah, like it's strange. Like, it's almost they treat someone unfollowing them like someone saying to them, "I don't want to be friends with you anymore."
Exactly.
Like it's like they don't know. Like it's just a random person. Like like it's different if your best friend unfollowed. Like, what are you doing? Like it's a random person unfollowed you. It's like like it's crazy, man. It's crazy the times we live in. Like compared to how they were in like 95 or 96. Like
man.
Back then, like. I was 7. So right, when did you had dial-up internet, didn't you? That came into play like what 97, 98, 96.
I was born in 95.
You're born in 95.
Yeah.
So you're a little bit younger than me. So yeah. So
I remember MSN Messenger. That was my introduction.
The mid 2000s.
Yeah,
that was
that stuff was cool, man. I like being on MSN Messenger.
That was simple. It's simple. You know, you didn't have to look at people's photos. You just talk to them. But even I think that was the start of the internet thing. Like, yeah,
yeah, and look how far it's come.
Yes,
it's scary to think where it'll be in another 10 years.
Oh my god!
Especially with this culture right now, we're all getting used to just being inside and being on our phones more. Speaking of the whole like addiction to the phone thing, I came off of Instagram, Facebook, everything. I deleted my accounts on everything. Even on WhatsApp, I left all of my group chats, and I was only talking to my family and my closest circle of friends, and I was doing that for just under 2 years. And during that time, I felt like I had the greatest clarity. I felt like my thoughts were clearer. Whereas now I've come back to it because obviously I'm trying to launch this brand and I'm trying to build my business. But and I thought I would come into it smarter this time, but I'm hooked on it. I'm hooked. Like, you know, if my phone buzzes, I look at it and I find myself contemplating, why did this week's posts not get as much engagement as last week's? What can I do differently? So, I mean, I suppose at least now I'm looking at it from a business perspective, but I do see this pernicious effect it's having on the amount of attention I'm giving to it, it's really hard not to.
Yeah, you're right. I'm the same as well. Like checking it every day, making sure there's posts every day. But I almost think like what it would be like to just not use your mobile phone for a week. I mean, not use any social media, WhatsApp, just talk to close family and friends on text message, because everyone talks on WhatsApp now, to maybe delete WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, all this other stuff.
Just turn the phone off.
Yeah, turn the phone off and go back to what we used to do, like sit down and watch the news, because a lot of people will find out what's going on in the world through Instagram and Facebook. And that's where it gets dangerous, Ray, because especially with the virus now, they're looking at social media to see what's going on. But the person who's reporting to them on social media could be one of these conspiracy theorists and reported what they want to show, if that makes sense. So this is how information is spread. Misinformation is spread.
It's very polarizing.
Stuff like masks are dangerous. All this other rubbish, masks are dangerous, this, that, and the other. Bill Gates is injecting us all this other rubbish. Like,
did you see that one about the 5G towers that spreading the corona?
Just absolute rubbish, to be honest. So they'll see that on social media, and that'll be their news for the day. But back in the day, we'd watch the news at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock. We'd put so you're right. I think it'll give people more clarity if they just come off if they had like a social media holiday or whatever, like. And I've always been tempted to do it, and then I'm just like, nah, I'm too comfortable. Social media.
See, I was talking about it right now. It's really tantalizing to me just to turn my phone off for a week. It sounds like such a good idea.
It is just like to delete WhatsApp, just communicate with people via text message, because people don't. If people wanted to get in contact with you, they would do. But yeah, I guess it'll give yourself more clarity to think, who are the people in my life that really need to be in my life? Who don't I talk to?
Sure.
So how long were you off? How long were you off social media for? Like?
Almost 2 years.
2 years.
Almost 2 years. Yeah.
So you obviously, so at first when you took it off, how long did it take for you to get used to things? Just a week off social media?
I loved it. I really liked it. I really didn't want to come back to social media. See me, I've always been into filmmaking. I like making videos. It's been a hobby of mine since I was like 14. So for a while I was working with the BBC making videos for them. But
nice.
At this point I wasn't really doing that, and like it's kind of a creative outlet for me. But it was time off of that. So I wasn't making the videos. I wasn't really doing anything, but really I settled into it really quickly, and I liked it. I really liked it, not being on it. We were talking about meditation. With meditation, I see the point of meditation is you are not your thoughts. And by meditating and you're creating that border between yourself and your thoughts. You're identifying more with yourself rather than all of this noise and clutter in your mind. But see, when we're attached to the phone, we're constantly attached to noise and clutter, not just our own noise and clutter, the noise and clutter of everyone in the world we're attached to.
Definitely. And it is just like a distraction. Meditation, I've tried once or twice, but it's something like I keep telling myself, listen, you need to try it every day and stuff like that. And I've never met someone that does meditation that hasn't been happy. Everyone has reported positive effects from it, but stuff like, being on your phone, your iPad, they're all distractions for all this positive stuff like the meditation and stuff. But I might. The only thing, I'd love to try that. Just take myself off social media for a bit. I think it'd be quite refreshing. But again, you look like yourself. I'm trying to build, your brand and stuff like that. And I guess that's the thing. In this time, social media is important for that, and it's important for a lot of businesses and stuff because a lot of people, especially now, people aren't going to the shops, people aren't going outdoors. So it is that sort of a lot for businesses. It's that e-commerce thing, and
Yeah, man. Completely agree with you. You said that you tried meditation and it didn't work for you, and I was the same.
I'm not saying it was. I just haven't got around to. I've tried it once or twice.
It didn't stick.
I haven't made it I haven't made it a routine. I'd like to make it a routine, but
I think something is finding a meditation that suits you, because I tried it with the lights off and sitting cross-legged. But that meditation didn't work for me. It was boring. It was just unengaging for me. I think
I tried one, sat on the couch with my eyes closed with someone talking to me, and I nearly fell asleep, you know, because you're in a nice position, you just fall asleep. So I need to find something that's, you're right, quite engaging.
I don't know if engaging is the right word, because you're trying to disengage.
Engaging, yes. You are,
Yeah,
something
but
stimulating, yeah.
Something that is, it doesn't seem like a task or a chore to you. Like for me, I find like praying 5 times a day, like that to me is like a meditation. Taking time to read the Quran, like, because it's time that I'm separating myself from everything else that's going on to just focus on what I'm doing right now, and see if I'm spending too much time on my phone that day, like prior to doing it, or I'm sending messages prior to doing my salah. I tend to find that when I'm doing my salah, that those messages are still kind of rushing through my head. But one thing that really helped me was, there's a book called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, and in this book it's a really short book. In fact, here it is. I was trying to grab the book without getting up, because I didn't want you to see that I'm wearing shorts on the bottom half.
It's all right.
Anyway, this is it. As a Man Thinketh. So really short book. Really short book. You could read the whole thing in 30 minutes, but it's beautifully written. It's an amazing piece of literature. And the whole book, he's comparing your mind to a garden. And your thoughts are seeds that you're planting in the garden. And now if you're thinking negative thoughts, they're going to produce negative fruits, and your garden is going to be overcome by weeds. So the one of the first things that I had to do was identify thoughts which are not my own. They're not in alignment with my aspirations, my goals, or my highest purpose. What are the thoughts that are roaming my mind, which are like, I could never have that. I'm not a confident person. I could never marry a woman like that. I could never live in a big house. You know, these are like evolution. Like, who planted these thoughts in your mind? Where did you get this information from? Like, and because you think it's true. It's true because you think it, but you can stop thinking it and think something else. But this book says it in such a beautiful way. I learn something new every time I read it. This is the first book I read that actually, you know, inspired my whole library. My friend Hamza Syed recommended me this. So I recommend to anyone to check out this book.
I'll check it out. It's interesting to hear about namaz, something about praying namaz and stuff. It's something I've always said to myself. It's something I'll rely on when times are troubled. You know, like I'll start, you know, reading the Quran and saying namaz and stuff. But it's not something, unfortunately, I do, you know, when times are okay. And it's something I've always said to myself, you know what, like I need to start doing it. I need to start doing it. And I think everyone that has started, they always say that it brings that sort of peace and clarity and tranquility to their life, you know, saying namaz, you know, regularly 5 times a day. And it is something that I just don't think anyone should just turn to, you know, when their life is really troubled. It should be something someone should do every day for the tranquility. And it is. It's something that I honestly, like, I need to start doing. And I'm going to check out that book as well. That seems like a good read.
Do it. Another thing, sorry, go ahead, please.
Yeah, there's another book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. That was another book.
I've seen that. I've not read it, but I've seen it.
I need to read. I still need to read that because I've got that on my Kindle thing. But
one other point I wanted to make about namaz is, you know, doing it when everything's good. Like, what's the point of turning to God when everything's good? Well, one thing I'd say simply is just the structure it gives you to your days.
Protection, structure.
Well, because like when, like, see behind me there, that's my daily action plan. Daily action plan. That's what I have planned for today. So all of my classes are put on that, and all of the salah. So just say it was a day where I didn't even have any classes, which hasn't been the case. I've been working every day for 7 months. Alhamdulillah, but I know that, like, between waking up and then Zohar at around 12 or 1 o'clock, like I have 1 or 2 tasks to do in that period. I need to eat, I need to exercise, I need to shower, then it's Zohar. Then between Zohar and Asr, I need to, edit some videos, read some books, do something else. That's between Zohar and Asr. And then between Asr and Maghrib, and then between Maghrib and Isha. And like that's it gives me like a skeleton to my day that everything else fits into nicely. So my day is not just do it when I feel like doing it. It just adds like order to your day. I mean, you can talk about the spiritual benefits and the mental health benefits, but even just some people, they just, no matter how much you tell them, they don't feel the spirituality, they don't feel they don't
Yeah.
feel it until they actually do it and they make the habit. But just from a pure point of routine and structure and discipline, I think it's a really good exercise of those aspects of our life.
Definitely. And it gives you that tranquility, and you have to fully, engulf into it and stuff. But yeah, no.
Yeah, man. Are you a reader? Do you enjoy reading?
Not really, no. I'm a bit like if it's an autobiography, I will. If it's something that I'm genuinely interested in, I'll sit down and read it. But my dad is a big. I'm not. I've never been. No, I'm not. If it's something that I really want to read, I'll sit down and do it. But I think I prefer, like Kindles, like audiobooks and stuff. Because I drive a lot, so I'll have it in the car, or if I'm working out or training. If I'm doing something sort of slow cardio or something like a walk or run or something like that, I'll have it on. But in terms of reading, no, I've never been that much of a, like a big reader. Obviously, if it's a book I really want to read, I'll sit down and do it. But yeah.
Great. I'll be honest, I prefer audiobooks. To be honest with you, I hate reading. I don't like it at all. I like learning. And I like talking about this stuff with people. But
but that's the thing, like compared to compared to back in the day where everyone would read, and now because iPhones, Kindles, everything, no one's buying any books anymore. No one. It's like it is a dying art, because you can get audiobooks and everything like that. So I guess that having to read is all part of the English language at the end of the day, and your grammar and your vocabulary and stuff like that. I'm sure reading has benefits on that.
Sure.
Rather than you listening to an audiobook or you listening to something.
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends on why you're trying to read. Like me as an English teacher, when I read or when I listen to audiobooks, for me personally, it's just about taking information out. Some of my students, they ask me, what's the best book to read, or should I read books, or should I do this? Well, it really depends what you want. Do you, because for vocabulary, is to read a word, like you actually have to write that word down and look up its meaning and make sentences with it for it to be part of your own active vocabulary. But there's a model we use as teachers, which is called VARC, and it stands for visual, auditory, reading, and kinesthetic. And some people are more inclined to learn but visually, or by doing, or by reading, or by hearing. So when it comes to obtaining knowledge from a book, if you feel like you obtain knowledge better through listening to audiobooks, then I'd say go ahead with that. Especially if you can fit it in. I mean, the benefit of audiobooks is you can do it while you work out. Whereas if you're reading, that's all you're doing. You're just reading.
You have to sit down. It can be done, a train or a plane, but it has to be when you sat down. That's decent.
Amazing, man. Do you want to shout out your social media so anyone who's listening knows where to find you?
Yeah, so I'm on sort of Instagram and Facebook. So it's at Dr. Uz Podcast. So DoctorUz Podcast at Dr. Uz Podcast. And if you want to check out our podcast as well, so the website's www.TheDoctorUzPodcast.com. We're on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Bring out sort of 1 to 2 episodes a week, interviewing sort of celebrities and guests and stuff. So about 80 episodes in. Obviously check out the list and see there. But yeah, if you just check out my social media for sort of podcast updates or some medical updates as well, medical advice. I obviously appreciate you having me on today, Ray. Honestly, it's meant a lot. It's been good catching up, and I'd love to do it again.
Yeah, it's been my absolute pleasure. I'd love to do it again with you sometime.
No worries, bro.
Thanks, man.
You take care of yourself. Have a good day, mate.
You too, bro.